Hey everyone, I'm Ashleigh Banfield, and this is Drop Dead Serious. Today was day 21 in the Sean Diddy Combs federal sex trafficking and racketeering trial. And once again, all eyes were on Jane Doe. This was Jane's second full day under cross-examination and fifth full day on the stand. And this time, the defense came locked and loaded. Text messages, photos, timelines. Jane was confronted again and again with affectionate messages that she sent to Diddy in 2022 and 2023. And they sure did not sound like a woman who was under relentless pressure from Diddy to get freaky with male escorts in hotel rooms or lose her apartment and her livelihood too. Diddy's lawyers showed messages where she said she was, quote, having so much fun, end quote, that she loved him and that their so-called hotel nights were, quote, the freakiest, nastiest, most passionate moments they shared. All of it in direct contradiction with what she told the jury earlier, that those hotel nights were not consensual, that she was being coerced and degraded and emotionally trapped and financially trapped. We're going to get to all of it in just a moment. But first, a bombshell about the jury, specifically juror number 6. The prosecutors have asked the judge to remove juror number 6, saying they have seen evidence of, quote, what amounted to a lack of candor, end quote, from this juror. In other words, they're accusing him of not being completely honest. All we know about juror number 6 is that he's a 41-year-old black male from the Bronx who works at a city jail and who told the court that he mostly reads the New York Post. Diddy's defense team challenged the prosecution's request, calling the government's move a, quote, pretext and a, quote, thinly veiled effort to dismiss a black male juror. This is big, right? Now, jury selection is sometimes the most important part of a case. They go all out. They hire experts. They do analysis. They do research. They do like psychological research. You want to pick the jury that you think is going to help you win the case. And so, if the defense is upset about this, they must like juror number 6 for a reason. But we don't know what's going to happen yet. Judge Subramanian said that he's going to rule on this issue by the end of the week. So I can't wait. I wonder what it'll mean for Diddy. We're going to have to wait to see if juror number 6 gets booted or if he stays on the case. So with those issues now on the record, they got straight to day 2 of Jane's cross-examination. And Diddy's lawyer, Tenny Garagos, yes, Garagos, that's the same Garagos. It's Mark Garagos' daughter. Tenny came armed with receipts, even more text messages that show that Jane was a more willing participant in the freak-offs than she maybe described on the stand to the prosecutors when the friendly fire questions began, right? Diddy's lawyer started off the day by pulling up a message thread between Jane and a male entertainer named Cabral. He's somebody that Jane previously testified had taken part in many of the hotel nights or the freak-offs, whatever she decides to call them, right? Cassie called them freak-offs. Jane calls them hotel nights. They're the same thing. They're freaky, kinky nights in hotel rooms or wherever else they decide to hold like marathon sex sessions with escorts. In the text messages, Cabral wrote, quote, how are you? Jane replied, good. Then Cabral said, that was the roughest night we've ever had, end quote. And Jane responded, laughing it off with a ha, 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 and then a sweaty-faced emoji, and then a monkey covering its ears, and then, quote, one for the books. To the jury, it looked flirty with a male escort from the hotel night that happened right before. It sounded even light and playful. But Jane explained it was all an act, that this is how she made the male entertainers, escorts, feel comfortable after the fact. I don't know why she feels she has to make them feel comfortable, but maybe, maybe she's a people pleaser. Maybe it just made her feel better. Who knows? It's for the jury to decide. But then Diddy's lawyer zeroed in on another exhibit, a message between Jane and Diddy dated January 9th, 2022. Jane had just spent what she described as, quote, an amazing New Year's Eve with Diddy. a hotel night that lasted 3 full days, the longest hotel night yet. But less than 2 weeks later, Jane texted him, quote, "It's not right how you're treating me right now, coming at me sideways about another female you like." She told the jury that Diddy had gotten cold, right? That he'd left her emotionally and physically to go on vacation with another woman named Gina. And that he did it, she said, right after they had just spent 3 days together. Jane testified she was thinking about breaking up with him. And that is when Diddy's lawyer pounced. I'm going to tell you why in just a moment. But first, permit me, if you will, a little bit of business. What are the stories that I cover on Drop Dead Serious? What do they prove? They prove that the world is unpredictable and that, amen, having a good lawyer, it's a good idea. Have a good lawyer. And that is where my really great partner and sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, comes in. Morgan & Morgan is a firm with over 1,000 lawyers, and that's because they win a lot of their cases. Just check the stats. In only the past few months, Morgan & Morgan alone has secured a $9.3 million verdict in a car crash in Florida and a $5.6 million verdict for another car accident victim in Atlanta. And that is not even taking into account the $1.8 million in Kentucky after insurance offered the victims a mere $5,000 for their case. So even if you think that your case isn't a big deal, if you don't think it's worth millions, maybe start a claim and find out. Fight for what you deserve. And by the way, it is super easy to do this. Trust me. Morgan & Morgan has figured this one out. You can actually go right on your phone and you can start a claim in 8 clicks. Yeah, I think you have time for 8 clicks. So if you're injured, start your claim. Check it out. Go to www.forthepeople.com/Banfield. You can click the link below, make it easy, or you can just scan the QR code on your screen. And hey, do me a big solid. Share the love with your friends. Use that code for them too. It's totally cool. You can give them the code. I'd really appreciate it, actually. Okay, let me get back to Diddy now. During cross-examination, Jane said that she was thinking about leaving Diddy. Immediately after she said it on the stand, Diddy's lawyer asked Jane, quote, "If you were planning to leave, doesn't that mean you had the freedom to do that?" And Jane responded, that's what Diddy would always say, that she was free to go, that no one was forcing her to stay. Under direct examination, she testified that if she left him, he threatened to take away her home and her income, and that prosecutors said that kind of threat, that sort of action amounts to sex trafficking, that she was coerced into the freaky sex, financially coerced. Anyway, this is cross, though. The jury's hearing a different side. And then came more text messages and more contradictions from Diddy's lawyers. Tenny Garagos pulled up another message thread between Jane and Cabral, that same male entertainer from earlier. This exchange was from early February of 2022, right around Jane's birthday. Cabral texted to say that he would be in LA on February 12th. And Jane replied, "It's my birthday. It's my birthday weekend. You ain't show me some love?" Cabral asked, quote, "Let me know what I can do for you." And Jane answered, "Make me a little personal video just for me." Garagos used the exchange to press her again, pointing to what looked like flirtation, even intimacy with Cabral, the escort. Flirtation with an escort from the Freakoffs that she said she hated. Then Garagos brought the jury back to February 5th, 2022, when Jane and Diddy had a dinner at Ocean Prime and then met up with another escort named Leo the Italian. He'd been a part of hotel nights in the past, too. Jane told the jury that shortly after that dinner, she saw photos of Diddy now vacationing on a yacht with another woman, a famous rapper named Young Miami. Jane said this stung. She texted Diddy directly, writing, "If you don't get your ass out of that island, there won't be a hotel night," end quote. Still, she testified that on Valentine's Day, just days later, she made a romantic gesture anyway. Garagos showed the jury photos from that night, February 14th, 2022. Jane said she decorated the hotel suite with red balloons that were heart-shaped and rose petals. She told the court, quote, "I really like romancing Sean in this way." For the defense, it was gold. Another moment meant to chip away at the claim that Jane was coerced into the abuse. And the back and forth continued. Next, Diddy's lawyer turned the jury's attention to a message exchange that seemed to question how Jane described Diddy's control over her. The lawyer brought up a time when Jane herself had suggested not one, but two escorts be brought in for a hotel night. Jane acknowledged that she made the suggestion and that Diddy was excited about it. She also confirmed it was her own idea, despite having told the jury during her direct testimony that she did not enjoy the hotel night that had taken place just 2 days prior on her birthday. And this is important because she has testified that birthdays were a very sore spot for her. She said that they induced trauma for her because she testified before that on her birthday, she expected that she could be just with Diddy, just alone. She just wanted love. She just wanted to be alone with him, and that he constantly insisted birthdays were a hotel night. Her birthdays would be these freak-off and hotel nights, right? So why is she eager 2 days after one of these freak-offs to suggest let's do a tandem, right? It just doesn't seem to square with how, her testimony was before. At least that's what it seems under cross-examination. Then the focus of the cross-examination shifted to jealousy and to Gina, the other woman that Diddy was seeing. Garagos pulled up a text message from March 2nd, 2022, where Jane reacted to an Instagram post showing Gina wearing a love necklace. Jane texted to Diddy, quote, "Nah, have her delete all that shit like you made me delete that food post and give her my love bracelet to match her necklace y'all copied for her." Jane told the jury that it became excruciating to watch Diddy treat other women better than she was being treated. She said that she saw the love necklace as a copy of the bracelet that he'd given to her. And then came another exchange, this one from April 24th, 2022. Diddy's lawyer used it to argue that Jane was not being pressured into hotel nights, that she was an active participant. The text thread showed Diddy saying, "I've been having crazy fantasies about you and Leo." And Leo referred to the same Italian entertainer who had joined them during previous hotel nights. Jane responded to Diddy's text with, quote, "I'll figure out what time I can make my way there. We've been wasting time fighting. Baby, I want to make love to you. I haven't selfishly had you to myself for 5 months." This was a moment where Diddy's lawyers highlighted that their client gave in to Jane, that Diddy gave in to Jane, right? And scrapped a hotel night at her request. Jane said she wanted Diddy alone, and Diddy's response was, "All right." On the stand, Jane was asked if that meant Diddy was giving her a pass, saying it was okay not to have a hotel night. And all that Jane could reply was, "That's what he says," end quote. But the defense had to contend with the rest of Diddy's messages that day too, because Diddy followed up with, quote, "See if the Italian is free after we have one-on-one," end quote. But then Jane said she couldn't make it that day. And Diddy's reply? The next day wouldn't work for him, so he offered the weekend instead. And Jane agreed. Tenny Garagos was framing the messages for the jury to show that hotel nights were planned collaboratively by the two of them together, not forced, not coerced. This date doesn't work? How about the weekend? Weekend doesn't work? Let's pick one that does. She emphasized to the jury that Diddy wasn't demanding anything, but that he was actually scheduling around Jane's availability. The implication was clear. This wasn't sex trafficking. It was two adults making plans for sex. But Jane pushed back, if subtly. She told the jury, quote, "Maybe a hotel night did ensue here, despite him saying this weekend." She actually seemed unsure about the exact timeline, even after reviewing her own messages in court. What she did remember, though, was a plan to meet at the London hotel. Jane testified that Diddy told her to head to that hotel, but that she stopped to do a little bit of shopping first. She picked up heels, she picked up lingerie, and she picked up 2 pairs of shorts, 1 pair for Diddy and 1 pair for the escort named Paul. She also bought male enhancement pills. But Jane told the jury this was not about excitement or spontaneity. It was about making the night easier to get through. She said she began incorporating shorts into the hotel nights to make the men more physically appealing, quote, so I could find them more attractive. And she didn't mince words about the rest either. She told the jury, quote, it was really not fun to wind up these guys and then wait for them to get erect, end quote. That's why Jane said she started offering them something called rhino pills to, quote, cut down the time. She said she saw these supplements as healthier than the hard drugs that Diddy was using. Despite Jane insisting that her behavior amounted to survival, the defense wanted the jurors to see that Jane was a willing participant and had agency on her own. Garagos then turned the jury's attention to another text, this one from March 28, 2023. Jane had just spent a hotel night with Cabral, and her message to Diddy was glowing. She sent 3 heart-faced emojis and wrote this, quote, it was the perfect balance of love, passion, and the freakiest, nastiest moments. We made love every single day. I love our sex together, end quote. And then the narrative shifted again to logistics. Garagos pulled up another batch of messages showing that Jane was booking an Airbnb for herself and Diddy and for Paul, the escort. Jane answered this by saying, at this point, she no longer wanted to use hotels for these freak-offs. She was trying to move things to a more private setting, hoping, she said, for some distance from the routines that had started to weigh on her. In one message, Diddy asked if there would be cameras in the Airbnb. Jane responded that she could tell the host it was their anniversary and that they just wanted privacy and that she could have the cameras covered. To which Diddy responded, quote, you're not scared of the cameras? I am. Then came a message that struck a very different emotional chord, and Garagos made sure that the jury saw it. It was a text sent to Diddy on April 21st, 2023, just after a hotel night involving Paul. She wrote this, quote, you're a blessing in my life. You're the reason for my child's joy. You are mine and I am yours. There's nothing I wouldn't do for you, end quote. It was the kind of message that didn't just express affection, it expressed total devotion. And for the defense, it was yet another attempt to chip away at Jane's narrative of coercion and instead paint a picture of a woman deeply attached, deeply in love. On the witness stand, Jane paused. She leaned back in her chair and she took a deep breath. And then for the first time all day, she got emotional. She wiped her eyes, and Garagos actually gently asked if she needed a minute. Jane shook her head and she quietly said, no, I'm good to continue. And Garagos walked the jury through a timeline of hotel nights and affectionate text messages that Jane sent to Diddy, all dated after the period of time when Jane had claimed their relationship had turned abusive. She pointed to more photos and more text messages and confirmed encounters from May, June, and July in 2023, including messages where Jane told Diddy she loved him. All of this was laid out for the jury to contradict Jane's earlier claims about wanting to end her relationship with Diddy. And from there, Diddy's lawyer shifted gears, aiming to portray Jane less as a victim, more as a jealous girlfriend. Garagos brought up a moment when Jane became upset after hearing that Diddy had taken a yacht trip with Young Miami and allegedly bragged about how much sex he'd had on that yacht with Young Miami. Jane had to admit that she was hurt. She told the jury, quote, I was upset that he lied to me about the trip and about what they'd done on the trip. She added, quote, it hurt my feelings that he promised me the trip and then did it with someone else, end quote. It was a moment the defense clearly wanted the jury to remember, pushing the idea that Jane's motivations were not about coercion or about abuse, but about heartache and about resentment. And with that, court wrapped up for the day. Jane's second day under cross-examination. It's in the books. It was a day filled with contradictions and accusations and emotional texts, and the defense's attempt to reframe her as a willing participant, not a victim. Tomorrow, we're expecting to hear the final stretch of Jane's testimony. Lawyers told the judge it should be finished by lunchtime. And after that, the prosecutors say they have just 3 more witnesses lined up. But get this, they told the court all 3 are minors. So I'm just like doing mental gymnastics. Maybe Diddy's kids? Is it possible? That's a real hard one. I just cannot. First of all, I cannot imagine. His mother has been in court every day, and several of his kids have been in court every day, despite this despicably awful testimony, filthy, dirty, sexual testimony, but also just testimony of a horrible human being, a sick boyfriend who treats women like dirt, legal or illegal. The testimony's been vile, and his kids have been in court for all of it. So who are the minors? My God, who are the minors? Anyway, they plan to rest their case by the end of next week. So folks, with the defense saying that, we are getting close. And if what we have already seen is any indication, this trial does not seem to be slowing down. So make sure you are subscribed on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you get your news, because we're going to be here for every single minute of it. We've got the wrap up every single day, and we go into detail. I'm Ashleigh Banfield. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, the truth isn't just serious. It's drop dead serious.